My friends traumatized a burglar so badly, but it was so funny that we somehow got away with it. College parties are the reason humanity should never have unlimited access to alcohol and bad ideas at the same time. Especially 18-year-old men, because at that age, the male brain hears phrases like, "There's a burglar next door," and instead of thinking, "We should wait safely for the police," it immediately thinks, "We ride at dawn." To this day, I still cannot believe none of us got arrested, or killed, or sued. But somehow, through a combination of drunken stupidity, delayed police response times, and one extremely unlucky criminal, we accidentally created the most ridiculous citizen's arrest in human history. And it all started because I almost threw up in a bush. This happened during my freshman year of college. Back then, my roommate Tyler and I rented an absolutely terrible off-campus house with 6 other guys. When I say terrible, I mean the kitchen sink leaked constantly. Half the windows wouldn't close properly. The upstairs floor creaked like a haunted ship. And I'm pretty sure the basement legally qualified as a biohazard. But it was cheap. And more importantly, it was perfect for parties. By the end of the school year, everyone wanted one final giant blowout before summer break scattered us across the country again. So naturally, we threw the dumbest party imaginable. By around 11 p.m., our house looked like civilization collapsing in real time. Music blasted loud enough to shake the walls, people danced on furniture. Someone was crying in the bathroom over a relationship that had apparently lasted 3 weeks. One guy was attempting to cook frozen pizza while too drunk to operate an oven safely. Classic college atmosphere. Meanwhile, I had made the horrible mistake of mixing beer, cheap vodka, and something fluorescent green someone handed me in a plastic cup labeled. Trust me, I should not have trusted him. Around midnight, my stomach suddenly gave me exactly 3 seconds of warning before full panic mode activated. I bolted upstairs toward the bathroom. Locked, I ran toward the second bathroom. Also locked, and from inside, someone yelled, "Bro, I'm fighting for my life in here." At that point, survival instincts took over. I sprinted outside into the backyard and collapsed beside some bushes just in time. I spent the next minute reevaluating every life decision that brought me there. Cold night air hit my face while bass from the party vibrated through the house behind me. Honestly, I probably would have stayed out there recovering longer if I hadn't looked up at exactly the right moment. Because directly across the yard sat our neighbor's house, and one of the windows was open. That by itself wasn't weird. The weird part was our neighbor Eric was literally downstairs at our party right then. And Eric lived alone. At first I figured maybe he forgot to close it. Then I noticed movement inside. A guy I'd never seen before was climbing through the room, stuffing electronics into a giant duffel bag. Laptop, gaming console, jewelry box, anything valuable. For several confused seconds, my alcohol-soaked brain genuinely struggled to process what I was looking at. Then suddenly everything clicked. Oh my God. I stood up so fast I nearly fell over. Oh my God. The burglar looked toward the window briefly, and we made direct eye contact. That sobered me up instantly. I sprinted back into the house screaming like a lunatic. "Dude, there's someone robbing Eric's house." Music stopped almost immediately. Half the room thought I was joking. Then Eric pushed through the crowd looking horrified. "What? Your window?" I yelled. Some guys inside. Chaos exploded instantly. Some of the girls grabbed phones and started calling the police. But the guys, absolutely not. Something primal activated in the male hive mind simultaneously. Within seconds, drunk college boys began arming themselves like medieval peasants preparing for war. One guy grabbed a broom, another grabbed a mop. Tyler somehow found a flashlight and started holding it like a tactical weapon. And then there was Connor. Connor was an engineering major with the decision-making abilities of a raccoon. Instead of grabbing something normal, he emerged from the kitchen holding an industrial-sized roll of duct tape. "Why do you have that?" someone yelled. "Doesn't matter," Connor shouted back. And before I could stop them, 12 drunk idiots charged outside toward Eric's house like they were storming Normandy. The burglar spotted the mob immediately. I will never forget the look on his face, pure confusion, then absolute terror. Because imagine robbing a quiet neighborhood house and suddenly seeing an angry army of shirtless college students sprinting toward you carrying cleaning supplies. The man panicked instantly and tried climbing back out the same window. Huge mistake. The second he hit the lawn, Tyler tackled him directly into the bushes. Then everybody else dogpiled him. It became impossible to tell what was happening. People were yelling everywhere. Someone screamed, "Hold his legs." Another guy yelled, "Who hit me with a broom?" Meanwhile, the burglar just curled into a defensive ball while drunk idiots lightly smacked him with household objects. To be clear, nobody was actually trying to seriously hurt him. It felt less like assault and more like raccoons discovering a burglar. Then Connor arrived with the duct tape, and things became deeply stupid. At some point during the chaos, Connor shouted, "Tie him up," and unbelievably, everyone agreed. The burglar was already overwhelmed, terrified, and probably too confused to resist effectively anymore. So while four guys pinned him down, Connor started wrapping duct tape around his wrists, then his ankles, then apparently his entire body because moderation no longer existed. The burglar kept yelling, "Bro, please, I'm sorry. I'll give everything back," but Connor had fully committed to the vision. Someone dragged out one of those giant industrial trash bags from our garage. I still don't know whose idea that was. All I know is suddenly they somehow stuffed the burglar halfway inside it while continuing to wrap him in duct tape like a deranged arts and crafts project. By the end, only his head remained visible. He looked like a human cocoon. Or a hostage prepared by Home Depot employees. At one point, I genuinely asked, "Guys, are we legally allowed to do this?" Nobody answered because nobody knew, and frankly, nobody cared. The burglar had completely stopped fighting by then. I think mentally he'd accepted that aliens abducted him. Then Connor ran out of tape, and somehow that became everybody's biggest concern. "We need more stuff." "For what?" I yelled. "I don't know, but we're committed now." That sentence perfectly summarizes drunk college logic. Two guys volunteered to drive to the dollar store before it closed, which absolutely should not have been allowed because they were drunk too. But again, nobody at this party was making good decisions. While they were gone, the rest of us basically stood around guarding the burglar in the front yard. Eric recovered most of his stolen stuff from the duffel bag while angrily ranting nearby. The burglar occasionally mumbled promises about changing his life if we released him. Nobody trusted him. At one point, someone offered him a slice of pizza. He couldn't move his arms to take it. Meanwhile, the police still hadn't arrived. Apparently, multiple fights downtown had delayed response times, so we were stuck supervising our human caterpillar ourselves. Then things escalated again. Because Connor got bored. "Guys," he said slowly, "no." I didn't even say anything yet. I know that look. Unfortunately, several other drunk idiots already looked interested. 10 minutes later, the dollar store squad returned. Without rubber bands, but somehow with an entire rope. I immediately knew civilization had peaked. "What happened to rubber bands?" I asked. "They only sold tiny ones." "So you bought rope?" It felt more practical. I hate how much sense it made at the time. I went back inside briefly to check on everyone else and drink water because the entire situation felt increasingly unreal. People inside were already treating the whole thing like party entertainment. Someone started chanting, "Human pinata." Another person asked if burglars legally counted as party guests. I remember telling everyone, "Guys, please don't make this worse." Famous last words. Because when I walked back outside 5 minutes later, the burglar was hanging upside down from a streetlight pole. I stopped walking entirely. What the hell happened? Apparently Connor and several others discovered the rope plus the duct tape cocoon made the burglar weirdly easy to lift. So naturally, instead of choosing sanity, they tied the rope around the massive tape bundle and hoisted him upside down like a bizarre Halloween decoration. The burglar swung gently under the streetlight while muttering defeated nonsense. Honestly, even he looked too emotionally exhausted to fully process reality anymore. And somehow the party evolved around him. People dragged speakers outside. Music started blasting again. Students danced around the hanging burglar while drinking beer like this was completely normal behavior. Someone actually put sunglasses on him. Another person placed a traffic cone beside him for decoration. At one point I saw a girl politely ask, "Do you want a drink?" The burglar stared at her upside down. How would I drink IT? That was genuinely the angriest he sounded all night. A few neighbors eventually came outside furious about the noise. Then they saw the burglar and immediately changed attitudes. One older guy literally started laughing so hard he had to grab his mailbox for support. "That's the guy stealing packages around here," he yelled. Another neighbor shouted, "Leave him up there until the cops come." Which, legally speaking, was probably terrible advice, but morale remained high. Then finally, after what felt like an eternity, police cars arrived. The entire street went silent for about 2 seconds. Then somebody yelled, "We caught him." The officers stepped out slowly, and I swear to God, all professionalism disappeared from their faces the second they saw the upside-down duct tape caterpillar rotating gently under the streetlight. One officer actually stopped walking, another physically turned away trying not to laugh. Meanwhile, Connor proudly stepped forward like a soldier reporting victory. "He attempted burglary," Connor announced seriously. "We neutralize him." The police officer stared at him. "With duct tape and rope." The officer rubbed his forehead so hard I thought he might quit on the spot. They eventually lowered the burglar down carefully while questioning everyone involved. The burglar immediately started screaming, "They're insane," which honestly sounded pretty fair. But Eric confirmed the guy broke into his house. The stolen property sat recovered nearby. And despite the absurdity of the situation, nobody had actually seriously injured him. One officer quietly admitted they'd been trying to catch this burglar for months because he'd hit multiple houses around campus already. "I just can't believe this is how it ended," he muttered while staring at the cocoon. "Neither could we." The funniest part came at the very end though. Because even after the officers untied the rope, they didn't fully remove all the duct tape. Apparently they were too tired to deal with it immediately. So they literally picked up this partially wrapped human caterpillar, shoved him sideways into the back of the police car, and drove away while his legs were still taped together. The last thing we heard before the door slammed was, "I hate this town," and honestly, fair enough. By the next morning, the story had already spread across campus. Apparently several neighbors filmed parts of it. For months afterward, random students would recognize us and ask, "Wait, are you one of the duct tape guys?" Connor became weirdly popular because of it. Someone even nicknamed him the Silencer, which absolutely went to his head. Meanwhile, the burglar apparently took a plea deal almost immediately. Probably because explaining the situation in court would have sounded fake. To this day, I still cannot believe none of us got charged with anything. Technically, we performed a citizen's arrest. An extremely drunk, deeply unnecessary, Home Depot-themed citizen's arrest. But still technically legal enough, apparently. Now that I'm older, the whole thing feels unbelievably stupid. Dangerously stupid. If the burglar had been armed, someone could have died. If police arrived earlier, we probably all would have gotten arrested. And hanging a man upside down from public property is definitely not covered in most self-defense laws. But somehow everything aligned perfectly into one of the dumbest nights of my life. And somewhere out there, I guarantee there's a former burglar who still wakes up at night remembering the evening a gang of drunk freshmen turned him into a human caterpillar.